Hey, welcome everyone to our free webinar talking all about missed IEP services and IEP decisions. There's a lot of IEP decisions that are going to be made, that have been made, that will be made, that are different than any other school year in the past. So it's important that you know what's happening around the country, that you're hearing about different options and different decisions that are being made, and how those might be able to help you as a parent or as a teacher, as a member of an IEP team, to make decisions that make sense for what's happening right now in the short term and for the long term. Many of you are new here, and welcome. I can't wait to get to know you just a little bit about who you are and where you are from. So if you wouldn't mind, down below, tell me, what is your role on the IEP team? Are you a parent, teacher, therapist, admin? What is your role when you sit at that IEP table? And I'd also love to know, where are you watching from? So let's go ahead and get started. I cannot wait. This way I know the comments are working too, because this is a time when you can ask questions. I'm going to get through as many as possible, but one of the things that I want to leave you with today is 3 steps that you can do in the first 30 days of back to school that will not be overwhelming and will help you make some of the tough decisions. And you know, some of the decisions are going to be small decisions that have big impact, and some of them are big decisions that we're making, like placement decisions, right? So there's all different levels of decisions. For those of you that don't know, I've been in the special needs community my entire life. I have a brother with Down syndrome, so I grew up watching my family navigate through the special education system. I was determined to change the special education system as an IEP, through the IEP system as a teacher. I just thought, Nicole is here from Chicago. She's a parent. Welcome, Nicole. So I went to school to be a teacher, and I got a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and I was like that all-in teacher. I had the pretty bulletin boards. I had the behavior plans all set up. I had a stack of IEPs on my desk, and I was ready to go. And then I got to know what the system was like behind the scenes. So I started telling the parents of my students, like, hey, if you say this way to my boss, then I bet you we can move things forward in how we're looking, to kind of move forward in this child's education. And then I would say to my boss, what I think the parent really means is, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And I was bringing the IEP teams together, and we would have the quickest, most collaborative IEP meetings for my students that my administrator had ever seen. So I started coaching more parents, and I started coaching more teachers and admins on the things that we were working on and the way that we were bringing IEP teams together. And for the last 20 years, that's what I've been doing with you. So you're going to hear me talk about master IEP coaches. In fact, I can see we've got a couple here. We've got Shelly. She is a teacher, Southern Illinois. She's also a master IEP coach. I want my master IEP coaches who are here, if you see questions in the comments that you feel confident answering, because you've been there, done that, master IEP coaches are highly trained. I want you to feel free to go ahead and connect, and make sure you let people know that you're a master IEP coach if you are commenting below. Jessica is here too. Hello, Jessica. Jessica is a master IEP coach, so please feel free to pop on in there. So we've got Ann, Tanya, Kelly, we've got Michelle, we've got another Michelle. So we've got California and Washington and Michigan and North Carolina. Wanda's here. Wanda is a Spanish-speaking master IEP coach. So if you ask questions and Spanish is your first language, please feel free to reach directly out to Wanda. She just had her name down there below. Let's see, Cheryl is here. She is a master IEP coach. Rhonda is here. So excited to see everyone today. So here's how this is going to work. I do want you to go ahead and put your questions in the comments of anything that has to do with missed IEP services and IEP decisions that are up and coming, or that have recently been made, or that are kind of like sitting on your plate right now. All right, those are our topics. There are hundreds of things that we could talk about in special education, but today, this is our focus: missed IEP services and IEP decisions. While I wait for your comments and your questions to come below there because I want to make sure that I address as many as possible. I'm going to get started on those 3 things that you can do right now in the first 30 days of school to help make things easier and a little bit more smooth, right? Because we are on a rocky road right now when it comes to what's happening, and everything seems to be changing every day. Who feels like that? Who feels like just when you think you might know what's happening, something switches up? I just had that happen to myself in our own family. I've got 2 daughters in high school, and totally thought that one was going to school full time and the other one was going to school in a hybrid model. And yeah, hybrid model just got yanked. So everything that we thought we had planned, we got to start over. So I'm right there with you as a parent, trying to figure things out and how it's all going to work. So the first thing that I need you to hear really clearly is that if your child, and teachers, you know, this conversation is for you too. So if your students have really experienced regression in an area that is significant when it comes to further education, employment, and independent living. So let me define that just for a minute. Okay, let me break down where we're going with this, because this is not about just documenting any regression that has happened over the past 6 months. All right, I'm sure that everybody has had some downward spiral in some area of their home in the last 6 months. I get that. So let's talk about the purpose of an IEP, which is to meet a child's unique needs and prepare them for further education, employment, and independent living. So if we look at those 3 categories, and if your child or student have experienced regression in a specific area of the IEP goals that highly impacts further education, employment, independent living, that's the regression that I want you to really focus on, having the data, being able to communicate the data, because that's where we're going to have to really focus on repairing this downward spiral in that area. So an example would be, I was just working with a family and their child has lost half of their vocabulary due to being stuck at home. Half of their vocabulary. Can we agree that vocabulary cut in half is going to have a negative impact on further education, employment, independent living, whatever that means for that child? So right now, for example, when I talk about further education, you're getting further education right now, right? This is like a continuing education class that you're in. Further education is not limited to the thought of a standard college degree. I'm talking about further education, being able to continue to learn. Independent living, employment. Does vocabulary affect those things? Absolutely. So would this be a high priority item to make sure that we have clear documentation of where the child was at, where the child is now, and kind of the trend of where we're going? Are we on an upward trend? Has that regression stopped, or do we need to do something right now to stabilize? So it's really important that as you look at regression, that it's not based on feelings. I really feel like my child has lost so many skills. I get that feeling. I understand that. Okay. But I need you to really think about, open up the IEP, and I want to talk in real concrete terms. So you're going to open up the IEP and you're going to say, here is an IEP goal that is really important for further education, employment, and independent living. Now, here's a hint. You might have some goals in the IEP that if I give you the criteria of, is this critical for further education, employment, independent living? You might be like, no. All right, so we're not talking about those goals right now. We've already just wiped those off the table. We'll deal with that later. All right, today we're talking about what do we need to focus on with everything that's happened. So first, you're going to look at the goal and you're going to say, yeah, this is a really important goal. And you know what? This is where my child was at, and this is where they're at now. And yeah, this is a priority. So when we talk about regression, we need to talk about it in terms of IEP goals that are of the highest priority. And then we need to speak in terms of data and any documentation that we can have, so we can have a clear conversation. So it's not just about feeling like your child's regressed, feeling like there's been a downward spiral, feeling like, you know, everything is moving in the wrong direction, that it's really clear. Here's the goal. Here's why this goal is important. And here's where we're at now. So you guys have questions about that first tip? Let's see, we have documentation of critical skills, all right, that have experienced regression. So we have Carissa here, who's from Wisconsin, a special education teacher and also a recent Master IEP Coach graduate. Yes. All right. We have, Christina is actually, she's asking me to clarify what I'm talking about in this scenario right here. Do I mean lost vocabulary or vocab not learned during this time? I'm talking about lost vocabulary. Like used to speak 100 words and only speaks 50 words now. It was a previously mastered bank of vocabulary, and that bank is draining because the words aren't getting used, the structure's not there, the support's not there, so the vocabulary is actually disappearing for this family. So let's see, we have somebody else who school just went to fully distance learning when they were going to do a blended approach. I feel you on that one. Absolutely. Let's see, we have Melissa, who is a parent and a parent here. So welcome, Melissa. We have Tara. We have, we have Tara, who shares that her kids, that show spectrum-like tendencies at home, but they hold it together at school. Who experiences that? So this shutdown has been really complicated because your child holds it together at school, but lets it all go at home. So now they've been home. There's been not a whole lot of holding it together. There's been just a whole lot of, letting all of the tendencies come out of whether that is, just having meltdowns over not having a secure routine, which that's been difficult for everybody, right? But so difficult in so many different ways for children who really struggle with that on a good day, right? Or you see things like not being able to execute executive functioning skills. So being able to stay organized, follow directions, or even stay in the routines with that. So, all right, let's see. We have somebody just said, I'm not seeing any of these comments. Keep in mind that we are live right now on 3 different channels, okay? Because we had a lot of people sign up and I didn't want people to get locked out of the Zoom room. So we are now streaming live on 3 different channels. So if you don't see some of the comments that I put up there, that's why, because I'm pulling it from another channel. Let's see. So we have, Amber says that she's considering becoming a master IEP coach in September. Yes, please do. Absolutely. We have somebody, let's see, we have Jennifer who says, and Jennifer is a master IEP coach also. What do I recommend for regression tracking if no clear data was provided by the school before the last day? So that's a great question of what do we do? So when was the last documentation? And if this is something that we need to improve going forward, which it sounds like we do, that goes on our to-do list, okay? But we need to look back and see what kind of data can we find. So when was the last progress report? A lot of schools shut down in March, and there was just a progress report submitted. Now, here's the thing. How many of you guys get data with your progress report? How many of you actually, so when you get the progress report and it says, here's the goal and it's listed out and then it says making progress, do you see the data that comes with it? You absolutely should be sharing data throughout the IEP team, especially during progress report time. So Jennifer, can we look back at the progress reports? And if it wasn't this progress report, meaning like, let's say the February or March one, is there one from the fall? I mean, I don't really want to look all the way back to the fall, but if that's what we have to do, then that's where we need to go. All right. So when's the last time that we could get some documentation that's in writing, that's not based on feeling, that's based on fact? And if you have to go further back, quite honestly, that just proves that we need a better data collection system going forward. So that could be one of your priorities. We have somebody who has attachment issues that we never had. Oh, yeah. I'm hearing that a lot. So kids that are, they're clinging to their parents or to their caregivers more than they would typically, because things have been so out of control and then they've been home so much that they haven't had that consistency of going out and being detached from their caregiver and from their parents. So yep, that's going to be a huge struggle as we get back into school. So Anne's asking, when I'm talking about data, am I just talking about that like they did something 1 out of 3 times or something more specific? So when it comes to data, if they did something 1 out of 3 times, do you have like a specific tally mark? That's just called raw data. So do you have the raw data as in, for example, matching the color red? Do you know exactly what days they worked on matching the color red and the check mark was like, yes, got it, or nope, it was an error. So let's see, what else do we have? Tanya's experiencing, my ASD child now exhibits nonstop verbal stimming. Never did this before. Also cannot sleep. So these are things that we are going to have to, and here, this is what I want to make sure. All right. The verbal stimming, Tanya, you may not have seen it at home. Have you brought this up to your child's team yet to see if they've ever seen it in school? I'm actually experiencing, when I'm talking to parents and I'm talking to teachers, parents are now seeing things at home that sometimes the school already knew that it was happening. And the school assumed that the child also did that at home. And then they're like, oh my gosh, no, I had no idea, or vice versa. So are you communicating with the IEP team to see if this is something they've seen at school? So let's see. Shelly is your, no, it should be the actual data that shows they have tried it 3 times and were successful only 1 time. So that's what I'm talking about, is seeing that actual chart. Shelly will tell you, again, Shelly's a master IEP coach, and she loves to talk about data. And so she's telling you, like, break it down. It needs to be broken down for sure in there. Let's see. We're talking about data here. Let's see. I saw one that Christine says, yes, my school does provide the data, not necessarily together, but every trimester for goals and report cards. So yeah, you definitely have to make sure that you're getting it. Let's see. We have Anne here who says, my youngest is in a self-contained classroom. She has Down syndrome and is included with her gen ed peers often during school. Our district has gone remote. I work and have 2 other children, another with an IEP. How much do we need to participate in online learning from my daughter with Down syndrome? Can they hold her back if we do our own thing for a bit until we're in person? What can I ask the school to provide? We'll leave it to Anne, who is going to bring up all the things right now. And I love this, all the things. So here's the thing. You do not have to make yourself miserable over distance learning and holding a child back when they're making the best effort possible to participate is most likely, I don't want to say never going to happen, because somebody's going to try to pull that somewhere in the country. Okay. And we've got people watching everywhere, right? So I'm not concerned about our students with IEPs being held back from their grade level due to distance learning. I'm more concerned about them being pushed forward without paying attention to what they missed. Now, and I want you to do whatever works for you when it comes to the balancing the online learning and whatever works best for your child. And we do need to document some things. So actually, thank you for the lead in to what the second point is of your 3 things that you can do in the first 30 days of school to help get things moving forward. So 3 focus areas for progress. Here's the thing. Majority of you who are watching right now have many things, probably dozens of things that are inside of the IEP, whether it's an official goal or it's an unofficial thing that's being worked on, okay? You have dozens of things that are happening every day inside of your child's education. And there's a lot of things that are not happening right now and that are not going to happen with virtual learning, any type of even hybrid plan. So the 3 focus areas for progress is a strategy that I'm using with master IEP coaches to use with their clients, and it's working. All right. So what this means is, for example, Anne, who's concerned about like, how much do we participate in? What I suggest is, instead of being like, well, today we can do an hour and we were going to do 2 hours the next day, but 30 minutes only happened. And then we were going to try on Wednesday, but then we couldn't even get logged in because there was chaos happening. okay? Instead of kind of just letting things randomly happen. If you know that you need to scale things down, which most of us do right now when it comes to our focus of what's going to happen. When we know that we need to scale things down, I want you to scale things down before they go into major chaos. This is how you're going to stop feeling so helpless in the way of, I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't even know what we're focused on. I don't even know if my child's making progress. All right. We have to really narrow down to 3 things. And this is not for the entire school year. I'm talking about 3 things to get started. What are 3 areas? For some of you, it's going to be 3 things just in the area of communication. For some of you, you're going to have 1 OT thing you want to work on, 1 speech thing you want to work on, and 1 academic thing you want to work on. For some of you, it's going to be 3 different skills in independent living, like following 2-step directions, or emptying the dishwasher from start to finish with no help at all. Or it's going to be having independent play for more than 3 minutes. Okay. That means that you would actually have time to like preheat the stove and take something out for dinner, right? More than 3 minutes without your child needing assistance with something. That's independent play. All right. So what are 3 focus areas for progress? Notice some of those things I mentioned, we don't need a Zoom meeting to make that happen. All right. That we can do some of those things with the support of the team. And just because you're not on a Zoom meeting doesn't mean that you don't get support from the team. All right. There is absolutely 0 reason why a speech session cannot be between a mom and the speech therapist to help to put together communication tools to help reach an IEP goal that does not require the student to be on Zoom at that time. All right, putting together communication boards, encouraging longer sentences with prompts, teaching parents how to help their child move through that next phase. I know that this is not ideal, okay? I know this is not, you didn't plan on being your child's teacher. Most of you did not plan on being your child's full-time teacher. I get it. However, you have to choose the struggle, right? Do you want to force your child to sit in front of the Zoom meeting to reach this goal? Or is it something that you can collaborate with the team on so you can execute it differently at home? But what are the 3 areas of focus? I want you to take the pressure off of yourself right now to say, I have to work on all the IEP goals, or I have to show up to all the Zoom meetings, or I have to do all the things that are coming out for this hybrid learning plan. 3 areas of focus. 3. You can have 10 listed, but you're going to focus on 3. So at the end of the week, you're like, I worked on these 3 things. Now everything else fell apart, but I worked on these 3 things. So 90 days from now, you're going to have progress in those 3 things. And if you don't have progress, you're going to have some gosh darn good data on what you were doing to try to get progress for those 3 things. All right, let's see. I'm going to pop back down into the comments here. Let's see. Anne says, this is so relieving to hear. Thank you for some peace. Yes, take some peace. Like, stop letting other people overwhelm you in those things. Regina says, my child won't pay attention during Zoom meetings and can't learn that way. Who feels the same as Regina? What can I ask for in place of that? Regina, is there any parent training that the team could give you that would be support for you to help your child make progress, like what we just talked about, okay? So is there, in the area of communication, the speech therapist, are there things literally that the speech therapist could walk through? Maybe the speech therapist does prompting where, there's tapping on the cheek to make, a certain shape with the lips or with the cheeks, that there's different prompting to make certain sounds, all right? So a lot of times what happens, now lean in and listen here, guys. Okay, a lot of times what's happening is the child is being brought in front of the Zoom. The speech therapist has 4 activities for the 30 minutes that they're ready to go through. They've got all the prompts, they've got all the tools, we've done all this prep work to sit down, and they've got 4 things. Child's like, nope, I'm not doing this through Zoom, and they make it through 2 of the 4 activities. Now those other 2 activities are lost, right? It's like we'll save them for next time. And that's why we're not moving forward as quickly as we could be, right? I mean, there's a lot of other reasons too. But here in this situation, right, we're at least attempting these 4 activities. A lot of times our teachers and therapists are trying to implement the same amount of information through the screen as they would in person. Listen to that, okay? You need to give permission. So Regina, first of all, you need to tell the speech therapist you're not going to get through as many, okay, if you do attempt through the screen, that it's okay to do less. The other option is, are those 4 activities something that speech therapist could teach to you that your child could be watching? All right, they'll model. And so is that something that the speech therapist could teach to you? And then you can do more of that work and direct service at home and integrate it into your natural routine. This is not about you sitting at the kitchen table for 30 minutes doing a speech session with your child. This is about you learning from the team what would have happened in the session had they been in person or had the Zoom session went in full. And then you can implement it naturally into the routine. Let's see. We have Melody is asking, can I ask for my daughter to repeat her senior year? Love my local school, and I'm assuming special education teacher in there. It depends on the age of your child. It also depends on how you negotiate that. So I'm not going to get hugely into what could happen if we went real extreme, okay? But I can tell you real extreme, I've actually had a couple of clients that I've worked with over the past years that they went to school beyond their 22nd birthday just because we had some severe issues and we had compensatory education happening, okay? That's extremely rare. If your child is under the age of 22 and has not accepted her high school diploma yet, then there's more options for discussion for sure. Okay, so there may be some options there. Melody, if you're not already in the special education inner circle, I'm going to encourage you to get there. For those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, you just hop on over here. And it's just going to say, yes, tell me more about how to get into the special education inner circle. And then I'll tell you all about it there. So that's how you hop over to the special ed inner circle. Melody, because we can help you walk through some of those pieces. All right. So Melissa is saying if they have an IEP, they can stay in school until they're 22. In most states, yes, you can do a senior year over. Again, it does depend on the age. So we don't know the age of her daughter. And the other thing is you have to so an IEP is approved year to year. So an IEP does not guarantee school until age 22. I have students they're 20 and they're like, okay, we're done. Like we're done. Whether the student's like, I'm done, I'm not doing this school thing anymore, or the parents are like, I'm done, or it's a decision. So you don't have to stay in school till you're 22. It's not mandated that they stay in school until they're 22. The opportunity is there for them to stay in school until they're 22. And it's an ongoing year by year decision with that. Let's see. We have Mary who says, my child missed OT and speech during her independent learning at home from mid-March to school. And how can we ask to recoup those lost hours? All right. So here's the thing to remember. I'm going to give here's the bad news. The bad news is, and I'm sure you already know this, you're not going to get hour for hour made up services. Not going to happen. We're not in a typical situation where we were in a regular school year and the speech therapist went out on maternity leave and they didn't have somebody to cover for her, so they owe the child those services. That's a one-for-one make up these services situation. We're not in that. So my child missed OT and speech during independent learning. Totally get it. So do you have specific data on what your child, where they were at, on what their present levels were before and where they're at now, so you can negotiate some remedial instruction? Notice I did not say compensatory education. You guys, this is where I'm going to get real. There are a lot of people throwing around the word compensatory education right now. That's not the word that I'm recommending that you use. There's a lot of remedial instruction that needs to happen due to missed services and regression? All right, so what are you really wanting for your child? So if you were to look at and say, okay, during that time, she would have made most likely progress in increasing her vocabulary by 50 words. So getting really specific on what you want the services for and what remedial instruction you're requesting, by who, and delivered where is super important. Those are a lot of details that you guys actually have to figure out when you present it to the team. Because here's what's happening. There are people that are going to the school. So I'm just going to pick on Mary here. If Mary goes to the school and she says, listen, my child missed OT and speech and I need these hours made up. School's like, yeah, everybody missed them. We'll deal with that later. And that's what happens. You go to the back of the line. We'll deal with you later, okay? If Mary goes to the school and she says, listen, my child had missed OT and speech during her independent learning at home. I completely understand why this happened. However, according to the data, we've had a decline in, let's say, we're talking about OT, okay? She's had a decline in OT. She no longer can write her name, and she was making progress in this before all of this happened. We're asking for remedial instruction immediately to work on the skill of writing her name and zipping her coat. And, here's how we want it delivered. Meaning, do you want it by Zoom? Do you want to wait for it to be in person? Is there a local OT that you're asking for them to pay for an outside service? So let's say that she missed 15 hours of OT and you're asking for 3 hours of OT by a local occupational therapist that she can see in person. Some of you guys just had an aha moment of, you can do what? Absolutely, you can ask for that. I am not saying that you're going to get everything 100% of the time. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that you can ask, and that there are a lot more yeses happening in that type of situation. So Mary, is that something that you could say, okay, my daughter missed 20 hours of speech, so I'm going to ask for 5 hours of one-on-one speech from the local speech therapist, and then we're going to kind of like call it even. That moves you closer to the front of the line of getting solutions with the school district, because you didn't just say, hey, my child missed services, make it up. Yeah, we know. Hey, my child missed services. Here's specifically what I'm looking to really recoup, and here's a solution on how we could possibly make that happen. That may just move you quicker to a solution. All right. Tanya just says, her state is using the term recovery services. So yep, remediation instruction, recovery services. We need to use different terms than compensatory education because we're in a different situation. So compensatory education brings about a real compensatory education. All right, you guys want some behind the scenes here, okay? Compensatory education is basically when a school district admits guilt that they did wrong. Now, a lot of you feel very wronged by your school right now. However, the big people in special education in the government are like, you did the best you can. So, okay. So they don't have to admit that they did anything wrong. However, they are willing to look at how do we deal with, providing some recovery services or some remedial instruction. So we're not saying that we were wrong. We're just saying that this happened. It's a whole different mindset shift to have this conversation in a different way. Mo just asked, what about ABA therapy? Can we ask for that services too? Yep. I absolutely know of families that are receiving ABA therapy in their home as their remedial instruction. So instead of Zoom meetings and instead of, worrying about going after the school district for missed services, they're getting ABA therapy. Now, this does not mean that they're getting a full 40-hour program in their home. All right. It's not a therapeutic type plan. It's more of a maintenance type plan, but it's definitely happening in there. All right, let's go to the third thing. Guys, keep on posting your questions down there. Let's go to the third thing that you can do. We've already talked about how you can document the regression of critical skills. Not everything. Don't make a list of everything that's going wrong. We're talking about documenting the list of critical skills. We're talking about finding 3 focus areas for progress, because there's 99 things you want to do, but you need to focus on 3. For the sanity of yourself, for the, just the emotional side of things that's happening in your home, for all of the overload that the IEP team has, help them narrow down 3 things that needs to happen to make sure that we're making some progress forward and we don't have another lost 90 days. Now, here's a big one. All right, my master IEP coaches who are watching right now, they're going to jump all over this. If you have questions about this, I'm sure they're going to be able to answer. I want you to be able to really improve the parent input statement in your child's IEP. And again, I know I have teachers and admins watching right now. You guys, this is a driver of the IEP, and it has never been more important than right now. And I always say that it is one of the most important pieces of the IEP. That is even more true right now. So inside of your IEP, I don't care what state you're in. Everything I'm talking about right now goes for all states, okay? I don't care what state you're in. There is some section in your IEP that says something like parent educational concerns. It says something like parent input, parent vision statement, parent educational concerns. I need you to open up to that section. If you do nothing else from watching this webinar, if you do nothing else, please go look at the parent input statement and see what it says. Because I have parents that think that they have this list of all these concerns, and it literally says, mom is worried child's not eating lunch at school. All right? We have to get real in this parent input statement about what you want as a parent for your child in the areas of academics, of social, emotional, communication, independent living, technology, all of those things. You know, all those things that you think about and you dream about. And I really hope in the future my child just can what? Fill in the blank. Do not assume that a team knows what you're looking for. I told you before, I'm a special needs sibling, right? So what my mom wanted for my brother was much different than what her best friend, who also had a daughter with Down syndrome, wanted for her daughter when it came for what was going to happen in school. All right? Best friends, kids with Down syndrome, exactly the same age. Extremely different, okay? Do not assume that the team knows what you want. Think about it. What I want for my kids is different than what you want for your kids, and that's okay. That's 100% okay. All right? My brother, for example, has a lot of medical stuff. He always has. So him living in an independent living type situation is not going to happen. It's just not. It never was. It never is. He needs too much care. Right now, family, we can take care of him. Okay. My mom, she does all the work, right? Special needs moms and dads. If we have dads here too, gotcha. Love you too. Okay. But it's just usually the moms that are here hanging out with me. So it's just something. So independent living was in the way of living without a family member or without 24/7 care. That was not a goal of my mom's. It just wasn't. So you need to know that you have a section in the IEP to be a driver for what IEP goals are going to be worked on. Special education has fallen apart. That's terrible. We also have the opportunity to put it back together better than it was before. We have an opportunity that is huge to really make a difference in a child's future. So if everything already fell apart, okay, great, and we're going to put it back together, why would we put it together based on what we were doing before? When we have the opportunity to say, okay, let's take a step back and figure out, what do we really want for further education, employment, independent living? This could be things like, let me give you an example. This could be things like, I have somebody who has in their parent input statement that they want the child to use technology beyond just entertainment. Who would love for their child to use technology beyond just entertainment? So my brother does not write very well. He's not a good speller. He doesn't put the sentences together. For those of you that are just popping on, he is in his 40s. He has Down syndrome, okay? But he is fierce when it comes to sending me an emoji and telling me how he feels. I get everything from thumbs up and happy faces to the devil horns, depending on how he's feeling about whatever is happening on the, baseball game or whatever's happening at the house. He can tell me just about everything through emojis. All right. The other thing that he's really great at is he hates when things run out in the house, right? Like if the milk is getting low or the toothpaste is getting low, like things that are important to him in his routine. He needs his things, right? And he knows when they're getting low. And if my mom's not home, all of a sudden I get this random picture and it's exactly of the tube of toothpaste that is low or of the milk jug that is low because he wants it replaced because he does not want to run out. He knows how to use that. Now, if he called me up and used his verbal communication, I would understand the milk is low, but I might go when I'm at the store or send my daughters to the store for him, I might go get the wrong milk. So he knows if he sends me a picture that he's communicating clearly of like, hey, sis, I need this. All right. So that's using technology beyond just entertainment. Now, what else does he use his phone for? He's checking the sports scores. He's seeing what's on TV. He's scrolling through Facebook. Okay. So you have to look at this bigger picture because IEP teams are in the school trenches. You are in life in the big picture. And this parent input statement can give some really cool ideas to the team on where they can take their school goals and coordinate them to the big picture. All right. Let's see. Cheryl says, the parents' concerns should include what you want to happen, not just the concern. Yep, it's not a dumping ground for complaints. Set the vision high. All right. We have Diana who's down there giving a bunch of feedback. We have Shelly. Let's see. We talked about retaining kids in their school grade. Our district indicated that due to COVID, no one is being retained. There will be recovery time. There's that word recovery again. Guys, write it down. Recovery and remediation. Those are your buzzwords to speak the language in your district to get things moving forward. And that goes for everybody on the IEP team. All right, we have, so in Ohio, there's not a specific section. It's usually placed under the child's profile. So there will be some word parent somewhere on the IEP. So that's a mandated section, but that could be under the child's profile. Absolutely, for sure. So look for that. Look for the word parent in there. That's like pre-typed in there from whatever form your school district used. Let's see. Anna just said, I may have missed it, but why are the kids not part of the IEP? Their option, I think she means their opinion. Their opinion matters. Yes, absolutely. We should absolutely be including the student's voice inside of the IEP as much as possible. We have a focus on that as master IEP coaches to make sure that a child's voice, a child's preferences, their likes and dislikes, and building a strengths-based IEP is happening even through these circumstances that are here. Let's see, we have, so Anna just said, I will talk to the school about it because they're not letting him. And yes, I understand he's only 9, but he should have some part. Yeah, absolutely. So there are different ways, depending on how your child wants to participate. Sometimes sitting in the meetings, not so fun. right? But writing a letter, drawing a picture, filling out a form, like a student interest form. What do you like about school? What don't you like about school? What do you want to learn? What do you, what makes you happy? What makes you sad at school? So those are things that as a 9-year-old, maybe some feedback, whether it's pointing at pictures or writing out words. I'm not sure, Anna, what your child's ability is for that type of communication and what would work best, but absolutely putting those things in there. So Alice says, so mine was just added on the notes. That's fine. However, there is a section somewhere in the IEP that could say see attached or see in notes section for that. Sarah says, this is a great one. We are currently doing an assessment for direct language and AAC. So that's like an assistive technology device, guys. So, maybe an iPad with a specific app for communication. The AT assessment is pending due to COVID. Since this is being dragged out longer than anticipated, should the assessment move forward? Yes, 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 yes. An AT assessment is not limited to happening at school. Now, here's the thing. If we were doing a functional behavior assessment, right? And we're like, how often is the child off task in the classroom? We can't do that right now. However, assistive technology is to prepare your child for further education, employment, and independent living. That includes all environments. So you absolutely can move forward. Please do that. Please get it moving forward. I'm going to encourage you, Sarah, to please go over to, I'm going to pop it up here again, Special Ed Inner Circle, and find out how to become a special education insider. We have a master IEP coach who is a guru at AAC, assistive technology assessments. It's Courtney Burnett. She is your go-to person, and you would have access to her and some next steps forward inside of the Special Ed Inner Circle. For those of you that are interacting with Shelly and Diana, and let's see, we had Cheryl that I know answered a few questions underneath there. With that, I'm going to encourage you to hop over to Special Ed Inner Circle, because we have a team of master IEP coaches who can answer questions and give you some of those next steps of what needs to happen to get through this. So specialedinnercircle.com, and I'll give you all the details over there on how you can continue to ask questions and get answers. Because stressing out over the next district email that pops into your inbox, or freaking out over the Facebook rumor that, whatever is happening in your district is happening, is not helpful for you. So what you really need to know are direct answers to your questions that you have for your child, and how does this affect what's going to happen next for your child. So to do that, I've put together a team of master IEP coaches who are going to be able to answer your questions. And you know what? They have more answers for you than any Google search or any, online forum of everybody giving their best guess. So I'm going to encourage you guys to go on over there. All right. Alrighty. We have Regina says, my daughter was getting a brace from the OT at school. It came in at the end of the year, but it was the wrong size. Can I request to get her measured again so we get this soon? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. That is something that does not need to be put on hold. So here's the thing, guys. I know that school shut down and everybody freaked out and it was like, screeching halt, right? Like, pause. We don't know what we're doing. We have no idea. Well, guess what? We still pretty much don't know what we're doing in many of the situations, but we have to start moving forward. We have to start making, progress in areas. So getting things like a brace from the OT at school is 100% yes. If you have something in your child's IEP, especially if it's not reliant on that school building, it's time to move forward. Absolutely needs to help them move forward. If safe, could you request a para to come to the home to assist with online learning? Here's what's interesting. That is being approved in some districts. However, then it's being revoked because it's being said not safe. So basically what they're saying is, if the school is shut down and nobody's going to the building for school, then they're not going to send a para to your house. However, if there's in-person learning happening and your child simply can't attend, so they are expecting staff to have contact with students, then that's more of a possibility. So that's the kind of the draw the line in the sand. It's like on this side, if your school is remote only, the chances of you getting a staff member to your house are like 0 because they're telling staff they don't have to work with students. If there's some in-person that's happening, then there may be an option. All right, let's look here. I always encounter difficulties with my daughter's IEP. The school always made sure to get CPS involved. It always felt like the school district was trying to get us to give up from attending school and getting rid of us instead of helping with accommodations. Who feels like that sometimes? Who feels like the school is just making things more difficult than they need to be, that they won't even work with accommodations and modifications? And now, a lot of times in this current situation, those are the families that are feeling like, and now you just forgot about me. Who feels forgotten about? Who feels like this was difficult before and now they really just don't care? Now, majority of the time, that's not the truth behind the scenes, okay? But feeling like that is absolutely legit. Knowing what to put in a parent concerns letter at this time, knowing the format, knowing who you need to CC, knowing that you need to get in the file, knowing that you have to close out a letter in the way that it says, if the above requests are going to be denied, please put all reasoning in writing and provide it to me in the next 5 days. Knowing how to have that language and put that in writing and knowing how to move forward through being forgotten, through feeling like it's being made more difficult than it needs to be. Those are all things that we can help you with inside of the special ed inner circle. So I'd love to have you over there, Anna, so you know that, it doesn't have to be that hard and we can help you move through some of those challenges. Let's see. We have here, Mo, can you go ahead and I was told that it was just for when the student is in person. Can you tell me what was just for when the student is in person? We decided to homeschool and I will be doing my son's IEP myself. Yep, there's a lot of people who are choosing that. Absolutely. So today we're not going to talk about all the different options between homeschooling, homebound instruction. What do you do if you want to go back to school, if you made that decision? So, and Mo just clarified here that she was told that the IEP was just for when the student's in person. Nope. If the school is in session in some way, they are obligated to implement the IEP in some way. All right, getting creative on those solutions and really figuring that out. That's something that we're going to be working through inside of the special education inner circle. But I can tell you 100% with confidence, the IEP just doesn't disappear because a child's not going to the building. In fact, there's many students that never go to a school building and have IEPs. Absolutely. Let's see, we have Heather who says, my daughter will be in junior high in a general studies program. In the last meeting, they recommended for us to switch her to a self-contained in another school. We have decided that going back in this remote situation, what to do next, switching schools or keep her where she's at. She's always had an aide, so confused. Yep, lots of decisions to make. Lots of decisions to make. So Heather, I want you to really step back. And so junior high will be a junior in high school. So high school. Okay, got it. So high school age. It really is going to be about what are the priorities for your family over these next few years. Some families want as much book work or academic work in that, because we can have functional academics. So hear me when I say this. A lot want book work, like actual book work, a little bit more similar to maybe how you and I experience school. Some families decide that, starting in upperclassmen years of high school and beyond, okay, that you want more of real world functional academics, meaning, yes, you want your child to learn math, but you want them to learn math in the ways of budgeting or in the ways of estimating or in the ways of time management. You want to learn reading in the way of following directions and skills that would apply in the workforce in that way. So it has to really be based on your decision of what do you need as a family for your child for these next few years. What can't you provide at home that you need from the school? That's actually a question that I love to ask parents at any age. How do I figure out what to work on the IEP? There's so many things we could work on. Well, my question is then, what can we do at school for your child that you can't do at home? It's because we have a different level of structure or different routines. And this goes for virtual learning too. What can we provide for you even through the screen that you're not able to do if we're not here, holding you accountable or training you on how to do something or presenting new materials? So you absolutely can prioritize that way. All right. So there's some conversation happening in one of the comment threads about scholarships for students with IEPs and homeschooling and all of that. This is one of the reasons that I'm really talking to you about the Special Ed Inner Circle, is because when people give out that information, it's typically true for where they're at. Okay. Typically people know what's available in their area, or they know somebody who knows somebody what's available in their area. However, for example, I can tell you in Illinois, absolutely not. If you homeschool, you're done. You don't get scholarships. You typically don't get even like walk-in services. You don't get any type of coordination between homeschool and, if you're homeschooling. Now, that's not homebound instruction. Homebound instruction is different, okay? I'm talking about homeschool, like straight out homeschooling. Like, I want nothing to do with you. I unenrolled my child. So it's very, very different. Be very careful that you know your rules in your state. All right. I'm actually going to pop Diana's comment up here. So a distance learning plan is a temporary adjustment to the IEP during a certain period. Still, make sure that's that the what's and the who's and the how's are covered and that there's an expiration date stated. Diana's a master IEP coach. All right. And she absolutely is sharing out this message as much as she can. I know Diana and I just talked yesterday that it's so important for you to know that a distance learning plan does not replace the IEP. It does not have to change the IEP. It is an addition to the IEP for a very specific reason. And you should not be making, you don't have to call an IEP meeting and change the IEP, because then that becomes the working document. Okay. So if you're going back to school, that IEP, the whole document would be changed. Adding an addendum in, adding onto, making certain changes for a certain period of time is much different than changing the whole IEP. Let's see. Amanda. Hey, Amanda. I haven't seen you in a while. It's like, hang on, we got the comments here. We're halfway through a 3-year eval, but COVID happened halfway through. We've been told they will only continue when in-person resumes. However, issues with reading have been documented in the IEP, waiting on tests. Student is capable of participating over Zoom, and other districts are polling students one-on-one. Are we going to have to restart our time frame of when the evaluation is due, since we were already halfway through? So Amanda, time frames definitely have flexibility right now. It's like if the district is doing their best effort, okay, then it's going to be excused. That being said, you need a really strong parent advocacy letter that's going to talk about timelines, what has been gathered, what needs to be gathered, what could be gathered virtually. It needs to be laid out very clear in a very bullet point format. Make specific requests of what you want done virtually. And the other thing is, you can complete a 3-year eval with kind of like a clause that says, we're going to do all of these things, and then we are going to hit pause on this evaluation. And when we get back to school, we will reevaluate if more data needs to be collected. So you can absolutely keep moving forward. The timeline, I'm not so like I said, timelines are going to have all these flexibility, depending on what your district is doing and how they're delivering things, but you can make things very clear. So don't rely on the timeline as kind of your push point. What it is that your child is lacking access to an appropriate education without having updated present levels of performance and data being taken. So you need to talk about access to the education, appropriate curriculum, appropriate materials, goals, present levels, all of those things. So really focus on that versus just the timeline, which in the past we would have been more timeline focused, but right now it's about making sure that she's being provided an appropriate education in the current climate and getting that information. All right. Let's see. What is homebound education? So homebound education is when the placement, so your child has a placement on their IEP, and homebound can be a placement, which means that services are delivered at home. I don't want anybody listening here thinking that that means that you get all your services at home, like just delivered to you on a silver platter. That's not how it works. Let's see. I have Shelly's down there giving some information on homebound communication. Diana's down there talking about communication as a vital part of speech. All right. On that note, guys, we have our 3 things. Let's go ahead and recap those real quick. So we've been talking about missed IEP services and IEP decisions that you need to make. We need to document regression of critical skills. We're not making a dumping ground of all the things that went wrong during distance learning or continuing to go wrong during distance learning, that we're really looking at documenting regression in the critical skills that are impacting preparation for further education, employment, independent living. We're finding 3 focus areas for progress. We're finding 3 areas we're going to focus on in the next 90 days to make sure that we can feel some movement forward and we can document that. So we don't feel like another 90 days has been lost because of all of the changes and things. But you have to focus on 3. I know there's 10 you want to work on, focus on 3. And then you're going to go grab the IEP document. You're going to look for the parent input statement that's located under parent educational concerns or parent vision statement. Somebody said sometimes they get it under the child profile area in their state. It's listed under a different title, sometimes in different states. The bottom line is, parents, you have a section in the IEP and your concerns and your vision for the future, things that your child could be achieving when it comes to communication, academic, social, emotional, community, independent living, all of those things. This is where your voice is at. I want you to go double check that, because more than ever, it's going to be important to have your voice as the driver as we pick up the pieces from special education being broken and put them back together, because we do have the opportunity to do that better than ever. To help you do that, myself and a team of master IEP coaches from across the country will be inside of the special education inner circle. I want you guys to hop on over to specialedinnercircle.com and then go ahead and get all the information that you need to see if you're ready to be a special education insider. This is where you get positive, creative solutions from people who know what they're doing. So you don't have to worry about the Facebook rumors and the support groups that are giving out maybe the right information. These are from highly trained master IEP coaches who know what they're doing when it comes to designing a program that is appropriate, even through the tough situations, that can meet a child's unique needs, that can prepare a child for further education, employment, independent living. I have enjoyed meeting you guys, talking to you guys. Know that you are not alone. We are here for you. We'll have more of these longer webinars here on Facebook coming up for you throughout the back to school season with master IEP coaches in the comments answering. But of course, when you come in and you're a special education insider, you get a whole lot more. So I'd love to see you inside of the inner circle, and I'll talk to you guys soon.